and listeners.
You can now watch Teleradio Bandido on our new YouTube channel, RJAM News.
Hit the subscribe button and like the video. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified when a new video gets uploaded. Don't miss out on our dynamite lineup.
Hello, Philippines, and welcome to the World News Jam right here on DZRJ and RJTV. My name is Eric Lecain, and I'm joined, as always, with Lalie Tolentino. We're here to talk about stories going on around the world, to answer questions that you have sent in. Now, Lalie Tolentino, how are you doing this beautiful Sunday evening?
It's a beautiful Sunday, Eric. So, we need to thank God for a beautiful day. So now we're back to our show.
Yes, we're back to the show. Now, Lalie, let me just say, there's been a lot of people in the last 15 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, that has been asking me a lot about this show that was on last night, that was aired last night with Jessica Soho. She is a multi-awarded journalist. And she did interviews with all the presidential candidates. You got your Lenny and Laxon and Manny Pacquiao and Isco. But one of the guys didn't show up, the front runner currently, which is Bong Marcos. So, Lalie, what I wanted to ask you, because so many people have asked me about this. Okay, all right. 4 people have asked me about it since yesterday. So I just wanted to get your take on it. I tried to watch it. I don't speak Tagalog all that well, so it was, everybody's talking a little too fast for me. But try and get your take on what this was, because seems like we have a lot of people out there, our listeners of our show, who are interested in what happened in this show.
All right. Okay. The only thing that I can say to our viewers like this, okay? Of course, 4 presidential aspirants were there, and Bongbong Marcos did not, take this opportunity for him to air his, whatever the platform and everything. But anyway, as everybody knows, all presidential, any candidate will say their piece. All right, whether you agree with them or not, whether they're gonna do their plans when they get elected, nobody knows. All right, now
nobody
knows. No, yeah, because they will promise heaven and earth, but the thing is, the only thing you will know is when they are already in power.
Yes, it's easy to promise. Right? I promise things all the time. I promise to take the trash out at the end of the day, and whether that really happens or not is neither here nor there. But anyway, Lalie Tolentino. So I'm assuming you watched this, as a lot of people did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
and what was your take on really quick take on what happened and how she asked the questions? Did she seem biased? Like Bong kept saying that she was going to be biased, and she asked the questions were too tough and they were too hard. So what was your take on this whole thing?
Well, to be honest with you, Jessica Soho is just such a great journalist. Okay, she did a lot. She did a good job on this interview. Now, because of course the questions are being prepared already ahead of time, right? Now, what I can say is this, because I admire Jessica Soho. Okay, now, if on the premise of on the Marcos side, because I think in the past, I'm not 100% about this, but I heard about this before, that when she had an interview with the Marcoses, because all of the issue of the Marcoses has been, people talk about it. Everybody knows about it already. So probably.
I watched it. I watched that with the interview that she had with him before, and she asked him that question. She asked him the question, like, all those people died, all those people were imprisoned, all those people were tortured. Why do you keep saying that, that didn't happen? And he was like, oh, well, I'm not really sure, I can't. And he wouldn't answer the question. And so that's what people, I think that's what it's on, because that's been replayed and replayed all over.
Yes.
So that's,
Yes. That's why, this is just my opinion, probably That's one of the reasons why Bobo Marcos did not, give that chance to, being interviewed again by Jessica Soho. And for me, I would just have to respect that. Even though, what if it is Lenny who doesn't want to be interviewed? It's her right. It is prerogative to be interviewed. But other candidates, they want to attend. They attended. They're being interviewed. So be it. So that's why I'm saying.
But you know what this gives the look of, that he's a weak, scared guy. He doesn't want to be asked any hard questions, because whether he wants to or not, Bong Bong is going to get asked these questions, whether he wants it or not.
Oh, yes.
His fault, forget the stuff about that he's saying never happened or whatever, but the fact that I'm sure she was going to ask, when your father was in power, unemployment went up 460%. Poverty was up 613%. Almost 50% of the population was in poverty after your father was president. Are you going to do that, or what are you going to do different? And I'm sure that's the questions that everybody's going to ask him. So if he's scared of her, man, what's going to happen? Like, what happens if he becomes the president? You don't think that other world leaders are all going to be, what about this? Is he going to do this like his father did? Or, this is going to come up. If he runs away scared of her, what does that say? This is a question to you. What does that say about his ability to run a country?
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, on that note, I would say that, of course, BBM, he has a TV ad on GMA7 about his plan. There's an infrastructure, everything. He put it already there. So that means, I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I don't need to be interviewed anyway. So this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. So there's no need, because I will be asked the same question over and over.
Yeah,
again.
that ain't going to happen
anymore.
So that's
why I think
nobody cares. Nobody cares about that. We care. Everybody wants to know is, he keeps baiting people with this Yoshida Gold stuff. Like, oh, well, if I get to be president, then the Yoshida Gold will come back. Is that really going to happen? Are you really going to give back the money? These are the questions that I see. I don't see questions about whatever policies that no, he needs to answer these questions first. Don't you think? Because if he doesn't, then that's the only thing that is going to be on anybody's mind.
Okay, so all of this issue, all right, okay, it will only come to reality if he becomes president, all right? All the issues will be answered probably later on. But at this point in time, we're not even on the campaign period yet, because the campaign will start February 9th. So this is just like a preliminary. What they did last year is like when they're showing up, they're doing caravan and all of this are just a show off. Just want to behave. I'm running.
It's a chance to speak out. I wish that we were sitting here talking about what the candidates said. What did they say? And there was some interesting things that came out of this. But instead, most people are talking about, why did this guy not show up? What is he afraid of? And what is he going to be? Does he think this is just going to go away? Because it's not. People are not going to, these questions are not going to go away. And it's not the questions, I think, themselves that people are interested in now, because people are saying, well, he's not responsible for what his father did and so forth. I think the big question that she was going to ask him was, why would you not tell the truth about it now? And if you're not telling the truth about that now, what are you going to do as president? Are you going to lie to the people when you're president, just like you're lying now? And I think that is the question that he's got to answer at some point to get this put to bed, to get this up out of the way, so we can look at the issues and the things that are going on and the things that they're going to do for the Philippines, because we can't do that until he gets past this one step.
All right. But, all right, he did not join that interview. But I read last night that he will be interviewed.
Yes, I saw that.
By Boy Abonda for the different stations. So now we will see from there. Yeah. All right. So all of us, the viewers, it's up to you. All right. The decision will be yours, because we're going to put somebody in power. All right. And the power will be for 6 years. whoever will win. So that's why I'm encouraging all the people, take a look at your candidates, okay? Because there's so many promises. They're moving heaven and earth for them to win. They will, someone will destroy somebody to win, right? And which is, for me, that's also unhealthy. What I really want is the candidate to show what they want to do and just do it. The moment they get in power. But remember, Eric, before you can even do something, because if there's a law that you need to pass the law, you have to pass the Congress, you need to pass the Senate before you can even implement the law. So it takes time for these people to just in case they will be in power. There's some executive order that the president can just sign and okay, let's do this. So it's a different thing. Okay, so it's not easy to be president.
Well, not when his father was in presidency. He just put everybody they didn't like in jail in the Senate. I mean, he removed everybody, made himself all powerful.
I talked about this in the other station last year. Okay, for people who joined the rally, the protests everywhere, these are the people who got affected. Somebody maybe got killed or whatever because they were there. But for us, as a simple citizen, we're just home during the martial law. That's why if you read a lot of stories also, they've been saying that, during the martial law, we're just quiet. We're just home, they said, oh, there's a curfew. Oh, we just want to be.
Yeah, just don't say anything don't speak out about your president and you won't get killed. And just stay at home and don't let any of your journalists say anything about anything except what he has approved. Don't let the airports, don't let the electricity, the electricity in your country went through the roof because they ran it into the ground through back. I mean, I can go on and on and on. But yeah, I mean, to stay home, we just stayed home and we didn't say anything. Okay, yeah, I guess you could have done that and you could have been safe. But, the millions of people that came out and stormed Manila at the time during the People's Revolution, there were a few people that were like, hey, we can't do this anymore. We can't just let our country get completely enveloped in, all this, incredible corruption, like the biggest corruption in the history of the world.
Anybody can say anything they want. Okay.
No, these are facts. I'm not saying stuff. It's actual facts.
Eric, there's a lot of stories to tell also about it. Okay. Yeah, I know because what you read is that not everybody that you're there through also. That's one thing because I live in the Philippines for all my life, so I've seen it. I mean, even all the president from Marcos all the way to our president now. So I've seen it.
You haven't seen anything like taking $717 million in cash off a plane that they smuggled out of the country. Okay. No other president did that. No other president ran the unemployment up to 400%. I mean,
we will, okay.
I can go on and go on.
Okay, this is I know you can go on and go on about this one. But, all right, this is the thing that, if that happens during the time, I did not see it personally. All right, okay, now, what we can do right now as a citizen of this country for us to vote who will be our next president is for us to move forward. We cannot be looking back and be disappointed and be sad of what happened. We have to move forward this time. I
agree with you. I agree with you on that. However, you can't be on a television station looking at the camera to the Filipino people and lie about history. If you're going to lie about history,
now
I'm not. I can't. How can this is what? I mean, not me personally, but I'm just saying that this is what people want to. This is the issue, which he could have cleared up. If he had showed up the other night, he could have cleared it up. Now he can go into.
For me, it's not important.
It's not important. For me, if your president aspirant is lying to your face, is that not important to you?
It's not important to me anymore, okay? Because there's a lot of avenue for him to explain himself, and even if that is Manny Pacquiao or whoever that candidate, it's not necessarily Marcos, okay? For me, it's a prerogative if they want to be interviewed or not.
Is Manny Pacquiao lying about something major that happened?
I'm just saying, if another candidate did not show up, they don't want to be interviewed, it's all right. Anyway, so give it to them. I mean, I just want to give respect to anybody for that matter, not necessarily for any candidates. I mean, just a respect to, and it's up to them. If people will vote for them or not, it's up to people. Leave it to them. That's all I can say.
All right, I don't know. I don't know how much respect he got for not showing up because of he's afraid to answer some hard questions because he's gonna have to answer some hard questions eventually. So maybe they're waiting and hoping that this will just kind of die away. But I have a feeling that it probably won't. But
That's okay.
one thing that will not die away is all of the questions that have been sent in to us by our viewers for this week that are outside the Philippines. Things that have, there's more that happened this week than this TV show.
I know, right? That the TV show is just one night, and then you know what? Tomorrow it will die just naturally. It's just a thought. Anyway, let's start with our world news, Eric. This is exciting question.
This is the exciting stuff coming from our viewers, who are, by the way, some of the smartest people on the planet. Lalie, Tolentino, what is our first question?
All right. This is from our favorite guy. The first question is from Ren of Santa Rosa, Laguna.
We love Ren.
Yeah. Can Bojo stay on as UK Prime Minister? So he's talking about Boris Johnson. Your favorite
All right.
guy.
Boris Johnson is what some people might call right now dead man walking. That's like, when they call a guy, remember the guy when he's walking, he's on death row and he's walking to the electric chair to lose his life. But in the exception, Boris, he's about to lose his political career. And it's because of parties. And I'm not talking about political parties. I'm talking about regular parties. Boris just couldn't keep away from having parties in England during the biggest lockdown that they've had, and telling all the public that they have to stay indoors and they can't have any close contacts. And Boris is out having parties. And the first party he had was at his own house. It was a bring your own booze party, which he got criticized for that too, for being cheap. But anyway, Boris claimed that it was a work event, but then he had another party. And then he had a party the night before the Queen's husband was to be buried. That did not look so good for Boris. It turns out that Boris either had or went to 7 parties while he was ordering everybody else to stay inside during these strict lockdowns. So, people were being barred from visiting their dying family members in the hospital while Boris was living La Vida Loca. So right now, a lot of people are calling for him to be, kicked out. So what happens now in England, if you're the head of the most popular political party, that makes you the prime minister. So it turns out that your group can just pick another leader if they want without an election. So 54 people of the ruling party, they need to vote no confidence for Boris Johnson. And if they do, then Boris Johnson is out. Now, Boris, all he has to do is win the majority. If he can just win the majority, then he can stay in, and that's okay. But even if he survives this vote, he may have to give up anyway, because the bigwigs may no longer support him. And that's what, if you remember, that's what forced out Theresa May and Tony Blair, because Theresa May got the votes of no confidence to stay in, but then she had to leave anyway, because the main guys no longer supported her, and they started moving to different parties and so forth. So she had to leave. So, there may be very soon in the next couple of weeks, no more Boris Johnson, which I believe is very, very sad, because I did love his hair.
Oh yeah,
Boris
I know, you're jealous.
He made it okay for us people who don't like to comb our hair in the morning. So it'll be sad to see Boris Johnson go. But that's why he's going. It's because of going to parties.
Yeah, all right. That's why, Eric stopped going to party during the pandemic. Okay.
Nobody's
Otherwise,
inviting me to
you will get
parties.
to do something.
Please invite me to a
All
party.
Right. Okay, let's go to Edwin of Makati. Another favorite guy of Eric. Why Wednesday was a bad day for Donald Trump?
Okay, yes. Wednesday was not a good day for Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump has had bad days in the past where it looked like he was going to be let out in handcuffs. But somehow he manages to slip out the back door somehow. But here's the time where it looks like they got him. Now, I've said that before many times, and I have always been wrong. So, but this time, the New York Attorney General, who's been chasing Trump for years, has finally narrowed down her case against him, and it looks like they got him on taxes, misleading statements, and omissions in tax disclosures in order to secure loans from banks. So She wants Donald Trump and his kids now to come testify on what they knew and when they knew it. Of course, that's highly unlikely that they will ever get them to give them any straight answers. But let me just say, in this case, lying on your taxes is not uncommon. Lying to banks to get bigger loans, not uncommon. Lying to Forbes magazine about how wealthy you are. Okay, that's Donald Trump. But these other things, it's not a big issue. But the problem that Trump has is the amount. The amount and the way he did it. The way he did it on purpose to defraud the bank. Like I said, we've talked about this before. If you borrow $10,000 from the bank and you don't pay it back, you're in trouble. But if you borrow $100 million from the bank and you don't pay it back, then the bank is in trouble. So it's the way, the amounts, and the way he did it to defraud. Now, this was not the only thing that happened on Wednesday. Trump also got in the chicken soup with the Supreme Court, which is made up of 30% of his people, when they said they allowed more than 700 documents from the presidential record to be used in the January 6th investigation. That's the investigation that they're looking into about the people that stormed the Capitol. And this is something that Trump has been fighting for a year, to make sure that the committee does not find out what he was doing and what he was saying and what he was ordering people to do on January 6th. Because was he telling people, or was he, part of this whole attack? Was he part of the planning of it? So he doesn't want people to see these documents, and he's been fighting that. So we went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, you know what? They can see it. So, we all believe that he was part of the planning, but we need proof. So, of course, his lawyers are saying, executive privilege, but he wasn't president, right? So executive privilege doesn't count. But this was Wednesday. And then on Thursday, the Georgia State Attorney convened a grand jury to investigate Trump and his involvement in trying to overturn the results of the election in Georgia. Remember that tape recording? We talked about this I don't know how long ago, but before. Trump was on a tape recording trying to get that elections dude to tell him that we need this many votes, exactly this many votes to be overturned, and I can win the election. Just do me a solid. Pressuring this guy to overturn these votes for the election. So anyway, that's what Trump's now got himself back in the spotlight, but not because he's running for office, but because of all his legal troubles, which he usually gets out of because he lets the statute of limitations run out, or he burns the money of the people that are suing him. But this ain't going to work this time because it's the U.S. Congress. They don't run out of money. They don't have a statute of limitations. And the New York State Attorney General, she's not going to run out of money. So he's going to have to answer for these things. So Trump is in the hot seat.
All right. So that's why he had a kind of bad hair day Wednesday.
He needs to consult with Boris Johnson.
Yes. They're friends anyway.
Do something.
So anyway, let's go to Judy to
hair gel you can borrow.
Why does the U.S. charges Belarusian officials or diverting a flight carrying a dissident journalist? What is this issue?
All right. Isn't this is the craziest story. Again, it's U.S. is charging Belarusian officials for diverting a flight carrying a dissident journalist. Now, listen to this. So first of all, Belarus is a crazy place. We've talked about Lukashenko here on the show many times. He's been in power since 1994, and he won't give up power no matter what. Even if he's clearly defeated at the ballot box, this guy's like, hey, look, it's a nude picture of Putin. And while everybody's looking at the picture, he's stealing votes from the box, that are not for him. So anyway, they had an election there, and we've talked about this before, and it was very obvious it was a sham election. The European Union has called Lukashenko the illegitimate president of Belarus. So many journalists were forced to leave the country after the last election, because if you speak out against the president, you are going to be arrested, tortured, and maybe killed. So this guy, Protasevich, if I can say his name right, who was campaigning against the president from outside the country, he was flying on a plane going from Greece to Lithuania. But going from Greece to Lithuania, you have to fly over Belarusian airspace. So as the plane was flying over Belarus, somebody called in a bomb threat. and that the plane needed to land. So they made the plane land in Belarus. Now, it turns out one of the officials from Belarus, the director of the state air navigation, was the guy that called in the bomb threat. And then he called up the air traffic controllers and told them, divert the plane to this airstrip in Belarus. And so guess what happened, Lalie, Tolentino? They landed the plane in Belarus, and they arrested the journalist as they were, looking for the bomb. So they were looking for this bomb, which was never there, and they arrested this guy. And then later, that journalist came on Belarusian television and admitted to his crimes and blah, blah, blah. Of course, it's obvious to the world that he was being forced to say these statements on the thing to plead guilty. But anyway, so that's what happened. If you're a journalist from Belarus, don't fly over Belarusian airspace.
Okay. Don't fly, just walk.
Just walk, but don't walk into Belarus if you have to go fly out of Greece to Lithuania. Whoever does that. But anyway.
Let's go to Med of Quezon City. All right. What is the latest update on the Tonga disaster?
Oh my bejesus. I don't know if you've been watching this. This reminds me of how powerful, extremely powerful the Earth is. For anybody that doesn't know out there, a lot of people have seen this already on the TV. It was an underwater volcano near Tonga, and it erupted in a spectacular show of force. It blew up a mushroom cloud, looked like a nuclear explosion, sending ash and steam hurling up into space. The sounds of the eruption could be heard as far away as Alaska. That's how far the sonic boom went. But, the big worry about this massive undersea bomb going off was the tsunami that would come right after, because as soon as this volcano blew its top, tsunamis were spread in every direction. And these tsunamis were about 80 centimeters high. And that's how it goes with these tsunamis, is they're very low. This is this wave that just travels along the ocean. Usually you can't even see it. It's just a little ripple of water. But that ripple of water, which spans miles, as it gets closer to shore, it builds and builds and builds till it's the height of tall buildings. And that's the problem. And the other problem was when this volcano blew up, it took out all the internet to Tonga. So you can't, have any communication back and forth between Tonga and the outside world as this tsunami is coming toward the island. So after the explosion happened, everybody knew what happened. Everybody ran because everybody knew what was coming, and what came was a 15-meter high tsunami, which flattened the island. At one point, it was raining rocks, like black rocks were coming down from the sky. So, but anyway, so that was the horrible thing that happened on the ground. But what was interesting about this, and only because I read science magazines all the time, what was interesting about this was the patterns of waves that it produced in the atmosphere. This was something that scientists have never seen before. They watched from a, if you watch by the way, go on YouTube and watch the video of the volcano blowing up. It's really something to see. But this NASA satellite that they have, which is way up in the air, it was watching this thing, and this thing shot up, and the atmosphere, the wave pattern shot out 16,000 kilometers from where the actual volcano was. So the theory is that the updraft of hot air, of ash, is what triggered these gravity waves, but no one's ever seen this before. And this is the first time they ever got a chance to actually see it. So right now, what's going on? New Zealand is closely looking at this because they think there might be more eruptions, especially ones under the water that we can't see. But wow, talk about a bang.
It's like a movie, right? It's just like a science fiction type of thing. It's kind of interesting, but scary.
Yeah. It's like a movie, one of these movies, Volcano or Lava or whatever, something like that. So, yeah, it was something.
All right. Okay. There's a kind of follow-up on this. Anyway, from Dennis of Mandaluyong. No. Okay. No, I'm sorry. This is from Mon Ortigas. Do you know how many type of volcanoes we have in the world? like Tonga?
Well, it's just, of course, I love volcanoes, so I know all these facts. There's 1,350 active volcanoes in the world right now. And 500 of those volcanoes have actually erupted since humans have been keeping track of those things. So most of these volcanoes, like this one in Tonga, are located within what they call the Ring of Fire. And I did a whole piece on the Ring of Fire a couple of years ago on the show explaining how it works. And I think if you look back at volcanoes, Mount Vesuvius, in Italy at 79 AD, where everybody just, died. Everybody got frozen, like when the ash came down. Mount St. Helens in the United States. That one in the Tambora in the Indonesian islands. There was, eruptions in Yellowstone Park like 2 million years ago, which killed everything. And then, of course, there's Mount Pinatubo, which 1991 popped its top at the Taal volcano in the Philippines. And, a lot of these are like Tonga, and then none of them are like it. Because, like I said, these things, each volcano has a different way of how it works on its own. This thing that happened in Tonga, they say this is a 1 in a 1,000 year volcano. These things happen like once in a millennia because the magma has to get to a certain point, then it has to cool, and then the gas pressure builds up, and then the magma becomes unstable, and then it blows. And that particular volcano that just happened, it shot up 12 miles into the air, but compare it to Mount Pinatubo, and that shot up 22 miles in the air. So, volcanoes are a dangerous thing, and there's a couple of them here in the Philippines that are scary.
Active volcanoes.
Yeah, active volcanoes. But don't be around Mount Pinatubo if it ever blows up again, because 22 miles in the air.
There is a sign it might erupt again. So any volcano for that matter, you think it's a dead volcano, you're not sure. But anyway, let's go to our next question.
Mother Earth doesn't watch TV. She blows her top whenever she wants.
All right, this is from Dennis of Mandaluyong. Why Shiro fight against a pandemic is about to get more dangerous? Maybe because of Johnson?
Yeah, because of Boris Johnson's hair. No matter how hard they try, 1 in 3 Europeans is not vaccinated. So there are mandates in Austria now that you have to get vaccinated. There's laws now that you have to get vaccinated by law. And Germany is about to pass one as well. So countries in Europe right now are making rules that are targeting unvaccinated people. Like in the Philippines. Like if you're unvaccinated, what was that crazy woman that's on Facebook now that she's yelling and cursing at the screen because because they won't let her get on the jeepney. I don't know what it was. Anyway, but like in the Philippines, you can't go into the mall. You can't, there's certain things. These are laws that are set up against people who are unvaccinated. And in Europe right now, they did a survey, and 19% of Europeans don't trust. 19% of Europeans trust the information that the government is giving them on the vaccine. 19% believe that the government is a reliable source to get correct info on the vaccine. So just like I have to say in the US and, for people in Europe, the people who voted for populist type candidates are the ones that aren't getting vaccinated. And the ones that are against vaccination. In Bulgaria, only 26% of the people in the entire country are vaccinated now. So, and it has to do with politics, not science. People who vote for very conservative populist candidates tend to not be influenced by obvious science. They actually don't listen to science. They more want to listen to what their political party thinks about the vaccine. So the common enemy here is not the virus. The common enemy here is not the virus. It is the other side of your political party. That's who the enemy is. And so you're not going to do what they say, even if it's there to save your life. So, these things that are happening in Europe right now, they're going to get more dangerous because they're making people get vaccinated. And these political parties are saying, you don't have to get vaccinated. So people are going to be standing up against these laws. And this is where I think the danger might be coming from.
Yeah, again, politics gets in the way.
I mean, forget the virus. We're fighting against each other. That's the danger here.
Exactly.
Not the virus.
Not believing the science anymore. So I don't know. I think that we have to go send him back to school to study science.
The world is going crazy.
Yes. All right, so go.
And Boris Johnson is living la vida loca. Anyway.
All right, there's a question from Ida of Makati. Should President Duterte be like Prime Minister Boris Johnson latest decision in the UK?
I don't know. I can't see President Duterte dancing it up like Boris Johnson. But if you're talking about no more wearing masks, no more vaccine certifications, no more self-isolating, just doing whatever you need to do to make the conservatives happy so you can keep your job, no, I do not see President Duterte doing that. In fact, I got to say, President Duterte doesn't do anything he doesn't want to do. But I think, that President Duterte should stick to the science, listen to what his health advisors are saying, or what some of them are saying, and do the right thing for the Philippines, because the Philippines right now is barely half vaccinated. And I don't even know if that's true.
No, it's more than half. Anyway,
52%, 52.1%. I mean, okay. So, according to what they say, I'm not sure how much I believe that. But anyway, the Omicron is spreading violently across Europe. But, the countries in Europe, they can handle it. They can handle, if Omicron starts spreading across, they'll be able to handle it. They have money, they have resources, they can deal with this thing. Does the Philippines have that, Lalie Tolentino?
Yeah.
If
you remember, we don't have money. We even borrow money to buy the vaccine.
We can't even borrow money. If Duterte did follow Boris Johnson's footsteps and he lifted the mandatory wearing of face masks, what do you think is going to happen? Here's what's going to happen. I'll tell you what's going to happen. The Philippines will end up like the U.S. and the U.K., where cases are skyrocketing now off the shelf. Then what's going to happen? What will happen? What will happen when cases start skyrocketing in the Philippines again?
Mm-hmm. Well, in the Philippines, we are different from the British and the Americans. We are,
for sure,
in terms of mindset, in terms of, because we follow our leader no matter what. Even though you don't agree with everything they do, we just follow. Okay, which is good because we can already see the example. If we look at, UK and US, what's happening there, we're not like that. I've talked to a lot of people here. I've talked to even the taxi driver. They don't want to be vaccinated, but they said, well, this can save us. We'll do it. So, yeah, that's the difference between the white guy and
the brown guy. Okay, well, here's what I think is that in the Philippines, Duterte and his opposition are on the same side of this. This is what we don't have in the United States. This is what we don't have in the UK or Germany. There's opposite sides. There's complete opposite sides. In the United States, you've got the Donald Trump people who, I'm not getting vaccinated. You're not going to make me get vaccinated. I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm going to breathe on everybody. If I want to get the virus, then I'll get the virus. It's my choice. In the Philippines, you don't have those people like you. You have people in the Philippines who are scared to take the vaccine because they've been reading Facebook, but you don't have this political turmoil going on. Yeah, you'll have turmoil. Where'd the money go? That's always going to be the case, but you don't seem to have this fight they seem to be on the same side about, hey, you know what? We need to do what's right for the people. We need to do what's good for the people. We need to get as many vaccines as we can. Not like in the U.S. where we have so many vaccines and we can't get people to take them. So that is what I think. So as far as should Duterte follow the footsteps of Boris Johnson and get rid of the mask mandate at this point, the answer is no.
No, the president will not do that. Oh, now let's move.
Listen to me, President Duterte. He's not listening to us.
All right. Let's go to Mirna of Pasig. Where can you find the world's largest cave castle?
Okay. The question is, where can you find the world's largest cave castle? Now, first of all, why would anybody ask this question in the middle of our show? And I think I know, because this person is like me, and they read the CNN travel section, and this is where this story came up this week, an article in the CNN travel section, and it is so cool. The answer is South Slovenia. That's where this castle is. Yeah, it's a castle, and it's built into a cave on a 400 vertical cliff face, and it was put there sometime in the 1200s, they say. But the thing is, supposedly there was this guy. He was like a Robin Hood of the time. This is where the castle gets these really cool stories. He Robin Hood of the time, and he killed the marshal of the imperial court in a duel. You know, in the duel, when they take a gun and they pace, everybody walks 20 steps and you turn around and shoot the other guy with this really crappy gun that you can't aim. Anyway, he's the one that came out on top, and he killed the marshal. So he ran to the castle and locked up the castle because the emperor at the time, who was Frederick III, ordered a siege on the capital to catch this guy and kill him. And the siege lasted 1 year. And it seems that this castle is really cool, and it has secret tunnels that run through the cave. So he was able to get out of the castle and get food and bring the food back so he could live all this time. So he would get food, he would bring it back, he would stand up on the castle wall, and he would throw it at the soldiers down there saying, look at all the food I got. Yeah, I got more food than you guys do. So anyway, his time came to an end because one of his servants kind of like went up against him and signaled the military. There was a little money exchange there. He signaled the military with a thing of fire to say that the guy was in the bathroom pooping. So when the guy went outside the castle to poop in the outhouse, the army shot a cannon at the outhouse with a giant cannonball and killed him. And so he died in the process of pooping. So what makes this story interesting is that King of Thrones, which is one of my favorite shows, was supposedly used this as inspiration because if you remember, the king, the head of the Lannister family, was in the bathroom when his midget son came in and shot him with a crossbow. So, and the crest, the family crest for that castle in Slovenia is a wolf, which is the same as the Stark family there on the Game of Thrones. So anyway, fascinating question. I love these kind of questions. You know, when you walk through that castle, they have arrow slits in the wall and gun loops and something called murder holes. You know what a murder hole is? I didn't even know what a murder hole was. Yeah. It's where you pour oil through the hole down on your besiegers and then you set them on fire. Oh, and the house, the house has a, I wish I had one of those in my house in Cebu. Anyway, it also has a torture room, which every house needed a torture room back then. Very stylish to have a torture room. So anyway, thank you for that fascinating question.
Yeah, I mean, you know, our questions are mixed with so many things. So this is very interesting, right? Something we learned from Eric Lecain today, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, if you're ever in Slovenia, go visit the castle where the Robin Hood guy
I'm going to
hid out.
Yeah, after the pandemic, I'm going to visit and see this castle. Anyway. Let's go to June.
Visit the torture room. The torture room that every house needs.
All right. What is your thought on Australia health minister not to allow Kelly Slater to compete in Australia because of no vaccination?
Yes, they will not allow Kelly Slater to compete in Australia because he has no vaccine. But the big news out of Australia lately has been surrounding the Australian Tennis Open. Now, many people already know this story. Let me just get through it really quick. It started about a month ago. Players were informed that if you enter Australia, you must be vaccinated or you must have a really, really good excuse on why you are not vaccinated. So, as we all know, Djokovic, the #1 tennis player in the world, is not vaccinated. He said that multiple times. He's not vaccinated. His father came on TV and said the rule in Australia was made to keep his son out of the tournament. However, that rule is really for everyone coming into Australia. You have to be vaccinated. So it seems that Djokovic was out of the Australian Open. However, he showed up at the airport and he said he had an exemption. Now, exemptions are due to medical or religious reasons. And as we all know, Djokovic is not vaccinated because he chooses not to be not vaccinated. Anyway, he showed up and he was denied entry. So everybody was like, oh my God, the number one tennis player in the world. So the Tennis Association asked the government to intervene. So they passed it to the Victorian government, who then passed it back to the federal government because they said it's not their jurisdiction to say whether tennis players can come into the country or not. So in the meantime, his father was saying that his son was being held captive and that he would come to Australia and he would fight those officials in the street. Anyway, actually, Djokovic was in a hotel at the time. So anyway, lawsuits were filed, and it's all based around the medical exemption, which Djokovic said he had, but it didn't state what the condition was that he had. Then it turns out that he had COVID just before. So he assumed he was cleared because he had COVID before. But the Australian government was like, what? This is your exemption? And that opened a whole nother can of worms because then he was positive and he was continuing to do publicity stuff even though he was positive. So anyway, Djokovic won in court because they held him in immigration without following proper procedures, yada, 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 based on a technicality. So in comes this guy, Alex Hawke. So he's the Minister of Immigration, who has the power to cancel Djokovic's visa, and that's what he did. So even though the court was in favor of Djokovic, the Minister of Immigration came in and canceled his thing. So the tennis player was deported, and he can't come back to Australia for 3 years. So who is Kelly Slater? Now we're actually to the question. Kelly Slater is one or probably the greatest surfer on the planet Earth. 11-time world champion. Guess what? He's not vaccinated. And there are two major events coming up in Australia. No vax, no play. That's the law in Australia. So the number one tennis star and the number one surfer are out. They can't come to Australia because they are not vaccinated.
You know what? I don't understand really. Very simple and basic rule, or this pandemic thing is happening all over the world, and this is why can't you just get that 2 vaccines injected in your arm? I don't understand. And those guys they're popular. They watch that. What's wrong with? All right, so
millions of dollars. Djokovic will lose millions of dollars from not showing up at the Australian Open. The Australian Tennis Association will lose millions because the number one player is not there.
Okay, so just give it the millions.
Just take the vaccine to Djokovic. Watch our show.
Yes. Yeah.
Listen to me.
Okay,
listen to Lalie Tolentino.
Yes, let's go to Beth of Manila. Okay, Beth, this is your question. What is the latest development on that disaster in Cebu and other places in Visayas in Mindanao area? Report, Mr. Lecain.
Well, all right. So, yeah. I'm actually in Cebu right now, so I've been walking around and I've been watching, talking to people, and, the water came back on, the electricity came back on in most places. Still not on in other places, but the problem right now is the stuff. There's stuff everywhere. And this is now the issue. This is what happens in these disasters. The disaster happens, it's on TV. Oh my goodness, how horrible the disaster is. And then it's over because electricity's back on, everything's back to normal. But it's not back to normal yet, and it won't be back to normal for a long time. A lot of people lost their homes. There are trees laying there are telephone poles or electrical poles. There's an electrical pole on my street that is like leaning like this. You walk under it like this. And the only thing it's holding up are electrical cables. I watched them turn on the electricity in our neighborhood outside, and the electrical wires caught on fire. I have a picture of it. We took pictures of this fire just, on fire up at the top of the pole. So, this is what's going on right now. So right now, the problem is the stuff. And There's been no garbage pickup for a month. So in Cebu, they started a cleanup project. The mayor's office started this whole cleanup project. And they had people come out, people that work for the city, not necessarily doing that kind of work. They all got together and they went up and they collected 2,000 tons of debris.
Wow, 2,000 tons?
That's how much is 2,000 tons of debris? I mean,
no.
I can't even believe that number. And that is not even near all of it. So, you know, the most sought after thing in Cebu right now is a chainsaw because of the fallen trees. And people just don't realize when a tree falls, you know, we have this problem. We had a problem here in my house. There's problems in the neighborhood, whatever. A tree falls. If the tree is this big, that tree weighs thousands of pounds. And it's really hard to move and it's hard to cut. So you can't just hand saw these things and you'll be there for months. So I think that is probably the big issue right now. And the people out in the far-reaching areas, you know, internet is still a huge issue. Trying to get the internet to work. People need the internet. They need to be able to communicate. And right now, that is just a huge problem. I mean, if you look up at the wires that are strung along the streets in Cebu, it looks like a plate of spaghetti. I mean, it's just a melange of wires. And I talked to a guy. I stood there and talked to one of the electrical guys. I'm like, you know, how are you guys going to deal with this? Look at all this like stuff. And he goes, honestly, to tell you the truth, 50, 60% of those wires do nothing. They were put up 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, and they just never took them down. And a lot of it is phone and internet wires. They're not electrical cables. The electrical cables is one. There's one electrical cable that runs through there. Everything else is internet and communication cables, and a lot of them are not even supposed to be there anymore. So this is going to be a chance, I think, for them to try and clean out a lot of this mess. But the issue is going to be, you know, PLDT. A lot of these internet companies, they run on PLDT wiring. So PLDT has got to get their stuff back up in working order so places like Sky Cable and a lot of these other companies can get their internet back online.
Wow. I know it will take some time because that will be another big investment for the big, even though they're big companies like PLDT, Globe, and others. I mean, this is not an easy thing to do. But, well, do you know any timetable? How do they, you know, plan this?
I mean, there are, you know, they have a lot of the electricity back, but there are places in Cebu province that they're talking about 4 months, 5 months from now of getting the electricity back. Getting the internet back is going to take just a lot because there were there's places in Cebu and in Mindanao where there's only one tower. There's only one place that you can get a signal, and that tower is not there anymore. So they got to come back and they got to rebuild some of these things and put the cabling back up, whatever, so that people with phones up in the mountains can get a signal. All my friends that live up in the mountains in Cebu, none of them have internet. So they got to either get in a Jeep or a motorcycle and, you know, go somewhere in order to get a signal.
Yeah, this is like back to the old days without internet. You know, like you're in a forest somewhere with nothing. So
I mean, it's just funny. I was talking to one of my friends and I said, "You don't have electricity still?" And yeah. And she goes, "It's not so bad because it was just 3 years ago we didn't have electricity then, like at all. So we just got electricity 3 years ago. So we're just going back to living like we were before."
Okay, well, that's a good attitude. Like, you know, you cannot be so emotional about, there's no electricity, but, you know, you have to find a way. Because I remember when I was growing up, we didn't have much electricity yet in the area. So, but then, you know, as time goes on, you know, things are building up and so, you know, that's the way it is.
Don't be like Eric Lecain, who was out there yelling and screaming at the electric bill. We got to get electricity back on. You know, so, you know, but there, I have to say that the Vico contractors have been doing a lot. You know, they've been going from street to street trying to get the electricity back and on. And even though they got the electricity on, it goes off because they have to turn it off in order to see if they can get another street lit up, and then they have to turn that street off in order to get the next one lit up. So it's a complicated process because this was a major storm. It was one of the biggest storms to ever hit Cebu. The person who lives right across from me, who's been here in Cebu, living in the same house since 1970. Said she's never seen a storm like this.
Mm-hmm. And you're only talking of Cebu, and there's so many other places like, you know, in Bohol and, you know, so many places.
Negros got killed. I mean, people are always talking to me who live up in Negros that they lost entire houses. Entire houses just disappeared. Mm-hmm. So it's going to take a while for them to rebuild. So good luck to everyone.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to Irma. Okay, Irma of Makati. The Philippines are now more than 3 million cases of COVID, and Friday reached almost 300,000 active cases. Do you think it will go up to 5 million cases this year?
I mean, you want to ask me this question, Lalie Tolentino? You know what I think. I think there are already 5 million cases here. But anyway, right now, on record, there's 3.39 million cases in the Philippines. Okay, I don't believe that number, but I think it's way higher than that. But the number that really counts is the 53,000 deaths. That's where it really counts. Because right now, Omicron it's going to start just spreading like wildfire across the Philippines. You heard it right here on this show. That's what I think is going to happen. And that's probably what's going to happen. Now, if you're vaccinated, it's going to feel like a cold, and then you'll be over it. And then, they say that once you get Omicron, then you're good for a long time, that your body is going to be set for a while, that you have enough immunities in your body that you can deal with it. But for all the people who are not vaccinated, as this thing starts to go across the Philippines, that's the number they need to be looking at. If it goes to 5 million cases, okay, fine. If it goes to 10 million cases, okay, fine. The number is the deaths. That's the thing, or the people that need to be put in the hospital. Those are the things because filling up the hospital, that's where it starts to get scary. Now, I know that lately some of the provinces have gone up to level 4.
Yes.
Yeah. So
they needed it.
They needed it partly because of the healthcare facilities there. The capacities are in jeopardy. So I think that is a smart move. Whoever did that, it's inconvenient, but it's not that inconvenient. I mean, it's not that. I mean, I looked at it, it's not that different than level 3, which is what Manila is still in. I believe Manila is still going through level 3. So if we want to keep going up and up and up on these levels, or just, everybody needs to go and get vaccinated. And I think this mentality, whereas I'm sick and I don't want to get tested because I don't want the government to know that I have it, because if the government knows that I have it, they're going to make me get vaccinated. Okay, that needs to change. Lalie Tolentino, you need to talk to your people and tell them that this needs to change, because if we don't have a good record of how many people actually have it, we won't be able to tell if the herd immunity is taking effect.
Yeah. And the thing is, okay, if I may share this one, because, I have personally got the Omicron and I'm well now. Thank you, Lord. Anyway, and it's a good thing. If you are fully vaccinated and you are boosted and all that, chances of not going to the hospital is very high. So you will just have colds because, as they explained, Omicron is like you're just getting the what we call the respiratory, the upper respiratory,
exactly.
Which is like
exactly.
You get colds, yes. You're coughing and all that. That's very basic. It just for me, it's just a normal thing because every like December, January, February, I get normally sick of flu because it's cold in the Philippines, which I like actually in a way because I sometimes I even say, I wish we can continue with this kind of weather because, after this March, it's going to be hot.
It's going to be
like
hot.
Crazy. Yeah. So, but anyway, I know some families, they refuse to test, all right, because they're afraid to know that they are positive because otherwise, but you know what? Why will you get scared? They get scared because their nose is sensitive. They don't want to be part of the data that they get Omicron. So what's wrong with that? That's why I am talking about this personally as my experience, because I know for a fact that because of what I did, all the protection that I tried to get, but I said get Omicron, which is for me, I think it's kind of normal to get this, they just put the name Omicron. But the good part of this is that I am well, and the only thing I can say again, get yourself vaccinated.
Everybody.
Eric, get your
booster shot. Everybody listen to Lalie Tolentino. Don't be scared, because right now I'm really scared because we're running out of time. We are out of time, which is scaring me to death because we're going to go over here. But listen, everybody listen to Lalie Tolentino. For me, Eric Lecain, here on the World News Jam on DZRJ and RJTV. We will be back here again next week with more questions coming from you. So everybody, please be safe out there. Do what Lalie Tolentino tells you to do, and we'll see everybody next week.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not